Brainwashing is the only manner by which an individual of average intelligence can be filled with spiritual value. Those who come by it naturally are of subhuman mentality. This is a brutal and sensitive world, and the more it is populated, the greater the diversity of deceits and scams and setups become necessary for human survival. When Barnum declared a sucker born every minute, he hadn't foreseen the Malthusian population increase of a century later. As I've stated, opportunities for individual expression haven't lessened. There are just more people around. Each in his or her own way is scrambling for survival. The Western world is a giant flea market of conflicting interests hawking their waves. Competition is far beyond the point of free enterprise in its conservative sense, and even though you are, by necessity, one of the exploiters, you are also, from someone else's standpoint, a victim. You may be completely solvent financially with an increasingly successful business, yet cursed by the effects of mass media in other ways. Your family or spouse may be an insurmountable problem, or you might be worried sick about heart attack, cancer, cystic fibrosis, AIDS, multiple sclerosis, sickle cell anemia, etc. I've read all this. Listen, kiddies, the day when family problems were as simple as in-laws, poor school grades, unwed motherhood, reform school, and adultery pale by comparison to the profound trauma suffered by domestically where none should even exist. The big killers of yesterday were tuberculosis and constipation, the latter being the most hyped. Sure, people died of other things, but weren't hexed into them ahead of time. They used to go crazy for masturbation. It was claimed...
You read this whole page? Alright, keep reading. I'll finish this while you're on it.
On this page?
Yeah, while you finish reading that, I'll do this.
They used to go crazy from worry. The medical profession has the power to cure, but its propaganda techniques are flagrant curses. Christianity still harbors formidable opposition to birth control, yet whines about the plight of neglected children in underdeveloped countries, where missionaries are running the hospitals. Sponsor a foster child, of course, a Christian charity. If they really wanted to do something, they would fight those elements of their own religion who would stifle mandatory birth control. If you haven't guessed by now, the name of the game is give with one hand, take away with the other. You are being beaten down by the very thugs who will then come to nurse your wounds. As Satanists, you are just a tiny step closer to honesty, a wee bit tougher in the will department, and slightly more sensitive as a barometer. In this world of sameness, you are outrageously different just in being a Satanist, and that alone is quite a distinction. The more individuality and freedom from thought pollution you can retain, the less affected by wholesome hexes you will be. The best place to meditate is on the pot. If you have a comfortable toilet seat and a stout lock on the door, there's no telling what great thoughts might emerge. Martin Luther dreamed up Protestantism while sitting on the toilet at Wittenberg Monastery, and we know what a big movement that became. There is no place where one is as receptive to outside influences as on the toilet. With immersion in a hot bath second and the shower third, that is why a long-awaited phone call's ring, or ring of the doorbell, will certainly occur under those circumstances. The greater the state of relative helplessness one enters, the greater the receptivity. Requiring the most privacy, surpassing both bath or shower, the toilet is unexcelled in attracting outside impressions and influences. Those who allow others to witness them in the bathtub, shower, or even engage in sexual intercourse will usually draw the line when it comes to receiving audience on the toilet. The toilet is the most sacrosanct vestige of isolation available in an otherwise crowded environment.
Hold on. So is that why I like the bathroom?
Okay. Do you come up with things while you're in there?
No.
Maybe that's your think tank.
Yeah.
Pressure on the vertebrae is relaxed while sitting on the throne, easing both mental and physical tension. Genitals are completely exposed and unhampered by clothing or pressure. If the chamber is sufficiently soundproof, or outside noise attains sufficient decibel levels, non-verbal utterance may freely proceed in any intensity or pitch and from any orifice. The infantile release of what we have been conditioned to hold back at all other times provide a psychological as well as a physiological catalyst. With such conductive conditions to relaxation and receptivity, the brain will function more freely and range further afield for informational input. Many do their best reading on the toilet, absorbing input while releasing outflow. I once knew an elderly hermit, a brilliant scholar who had built a miniature castle in the woods of Northern California. Until his retirement, he had operated a large chain of theaters in England. After coming to the U.S., he purchased a small plot of land in the Redwood and single-handedly constructed a fairy tale castle from odds and ends. Tiny gables and foliage rose above the stone and wood dwelling, which held 4 small rooms. To simplify plumbing and butane isolation, he combined his kitchen and toilet facilities, the stove next to the john, with the table on which he dined in front of it. Thus he could sit on the toilet, prepare dinner off to one side, move the completed meal onto the table, and sup. Neighbors from the surrounding area spoke derisively of the dirty hermit, despite being an impeccable dresser and great intellect. Eventually, the iconoclastic old gent died, his little castle demolished, and a split level built on its site. Perhaps he had more than just convenience in mind when he combined his kitchen and toilet. I wonder how many people, if given the opportunity, would like to eat at the same time as eliminating. Caracalla, Diocletian Nero did just that and more. The toilet is more than a throne, it's a sacred chamber. Valet chic sale.
Nigga, you can hold on. This for the YouTube.
No, it was just one sentence.
Now, that's crazy. Because we live like that right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy as fuck, yeah.
Because this is right here. This is the toilet.
I think Satanist fits me.
But he would still have to get up.
Give me some pieces of it.
But he would still have to get up to go to get the refrigerator and things that he needed. You feel me?
Yeah. Move a little swiftly. We on 7 minutes. Mm-hmm. Move a little swiftly. Back with Granny Juice and the Devil's Notebook. Because we got the satanic test coming up before I run for president. Rock with us. Let's go.
When is the test?
Whenever the check clears. Yeah.
As I have stated, the paradox where more people are talking dark forces up, down, and sideways, but fewer than ever are actually living as night people provokes speculation. The moral here is that when everybody's talking, very few are doing. More time is spent comparing notes with aficionados than in enjoying the hobby, per se. In a puritanical society filled with the sorts of fears and guilt that become a kind of security blanket, real displeasure ensues when there is a confrontation with the truly orte or bizarre. It's fun to be scared so long as it is safe and predictable. For example, a person can enter a movie theater and see a horror film. At a reasonable hour, of course. There are hardly any more all-night theaters. After the film ends, no matter how frightening, there is the safety of the exit in normal life outside. Amusement parks have always served the same purpose, and the roller coaster is designed to allow for daring fun feel, but by contrast, the unexpected experience, no matter how trivial, can be terribly unsettling.